Alfie Evans has been murdered by the state, and this one hit me really hard. What's in the news with stories on more government murder, Bill Weld, busybodies, cops quitting at record levels, and cop corruption. Finally, and yet another bad cop segment on even more government murder. This episode is brought to you by ZenCash, a cryptocurrency that infuses privacy, anonymity, and security done right. Also brought to you by NordVPN, the fastest, easiest to use service to protect your online presence that I've ever seen, and I use it every day.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. From the state where Vermin Supreme received 833 votes for the Democratic primary for president in 2012, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Rebellion needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at The Lava Flow Pod. This is episode 90, Alfie Evans Murdered by the Government, and it's Friday, May 4th, 2018, Star Wars Day. When there have already been more than 418 people killed by police this year, and the United States debt clock shows us at $21,170,300 million in debt. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. I have been absolutely gut-punched by this latest murder by the British government, so much so that I almost couldn't talk about this on my show. But I felt it was important, and I had to do it. I don't know if I was gut-punched because the pictures of this little, beautiful boy reminded me of my own son at that age, or if it was the fact that the British government has now been allowed to get away with this twice recently, or what, but this has really been tough on me. I'm talking about, of course, the latest case of a small child, Alfie Evans, less than 2 years old, being forced to die in a British hospital by the rulers of that country. Alfie was born to parents Tom Evans and Kate James from Bootle in Merseyside on 9 May 2016. He was first admitted to Alder Hey Christian's Hospital in Liverpool in December of 2016 after suffering seizures and has been a patient in that hospital ever since. Doctors diagnosed him with a degenerative neurological condition, which they have not been able to identify definitively. Alfie's parents and the hospital clashed over what should happen to Alfie, who had been in a semi-vegetative state for more than a year. His parents said they wanted to fly him to a hospital in Italy, but this was blocked by Alder Hey, which said continuing treatment was not in Alfie's best interests. As if some bureaucrat, or even a group of bureaucrats, has the right to make such a fucking decision. As if dying in a British hospital is in his best interests. Fuck these guys in the neck. The Alder Hey Children's Hospital NHS Foundation Trust went to the High Court to seek a declaration that continued ventilator support is not in Alfie's best interest, and in the circumstances it is not lawful that such treatment continue. In other words, they wanted to kill this child. Sitting at the High Court in Liverpool, Mr. Justice Hayden began overseeing the case on 19th of December. Alder Hey said scans showed catastrophic degradation of his brain tissue, and that further treatment was not only futile, but also unkind and inhumane. But his parents disagreed, and they wanted permission to fly him to the Bambino Gesù Hospital in Rome in the hope of prolonging his life. The Italian hospital, which has links to the Vatican, suggested operations to help Alfie breathe and keep him alive for an undefined period. One of the dilemmas Alfie's case raised is whether doctors are the right people to determine if withdrawing life support treatment is in the best interests of a terminally ill child. One of the key arguments presented by his parents was that they should decide what's best for their son. It was the same case made by the parents of Charlie Gard, the 11-month-old baby who died last year following a similar battle over his treatment. The law in the UK falls somewhere in between. The 1989 Children's Act makes it clear that where a child is at risk of harm, the state can and should intervene. This means that the rights of parents are not absolute, and the state has been emboldened to challenge the view of parents where they believe a child's best interests are not being served. If a public body disagrees with a parent's choices, they must go to court in order to override this parent's responsibility. So some random public body, such as this hospital, and a judge has more fucking say in what parents' rights are in regard to their child than the parents do? Keep telling yourself that you're not a slave, folks. On February 20th, Mr. Justice Hayden said doctors could stop providing life support for Alfie against his parents' wishes, saying the child required peace, quiet, and privacy. Mr. Evans said he believed his son was still responsive, telling reporters outside court that Alfie was improving. But Michael Milanus, QC, representing the hospital, said one of the problems of this case is they, Alfie's parents, look at him and, barring the paraphernalia of breathing and feeding, he's a sweet, lovely, normal-looking boy who opens his eyes and will smile. The hospital asserted that any movements by the child were spontaneous seizures as a result of touching. Mr. Justice Hayden ruled in favor of hospital bosses, and doctors were set to withdraw ventilation on February 23rd before his parents embarked on a lengthy legal battle. This is what happens when the state owns your health plans. This is socialized, single-payer medicine with death panels, folks. This is what we have to look forward to in this country when the Democrats finally get their way. Alfie's parents refused to give up hope and took the case to the Court of Appeals on March 6th, where judges upheld Mr. Justice Hayden's decision. On March 20th, the couple appealed to the Supreme Court, where justices refused to give the couple permission to mount another appeal. Despite this, their lawyers went to the European Court of Human Rights, ECHR, after exhausting all legal avenues in the UK. But 3 judges ruled the submission inadmissible, saying they were unable to find any violation of human rights. On 11 April, Mr. Justice Hayden then endorsed an end-of-life care plan for Alfie, setting a date to switch off his life support. Lawyers began a final legal bid to the parents to take control over the treatment of their son on April the 16th, claiming he was being unlawfully detained. I'd say so. But this was rejected for a second time by the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. 2 days later, Mr. Evans flew to Rome for a meeting with the Pope, pleading with him to save our son. Within hours, the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs granted 23-month-old Alfie Italian citizenship, hoping it would allow an immediate transfer to Italy. Pope Francis then tweeted his support for the family. Quote, "I renew my appeal that the suffering of his parents may be heard and that their desire to seek new forms of treatment may be granted." But this last-ditch appeal was dismissed by Mr. Justice Hayden, who stated that Alfie is a British citizen, who falls therefore under the jurisdiction of the High Court. In other words, the state owns Alfie, and they, and only they, get to decide his fate, all because of the random chance that he happened to be born within the borders that the state in question controls. A further hearing then took place on Tuesday afternoon in which Mr. Hayden said the case had now reached its final chapter. He rejected claims by Mr. Evans' lawyers that his son was significantly better than first thought because he had been breathing unaided for 20 hours after doctors first withdrew life support. Alfie's parents then launched a further appeal against the order stopping them from taking him to Italy, which was heard on Wednesday afternoon by a panel of 3 courts of appeal justices. The judges upheld a ruling preventing the 23-month-old from traveling abroad after life support was withdrawn. On Monday, Alfie's life support was turned off at 2100 BST after a high court judge dismissed fresh submissions heard in private from CLC lawyers. Alfie's father had said his son was continuing to breathe unassisted, and his life support should be reinstated. On Tuesday morning, Miss James posted a picture on Facebook showing him sleeping in her arms. "No matter what happens, he has already proved these doctors wrong," she said. "How amazing is he? How beautiful does he look?" Alfie lost his battle and passed on Saturday of this past weekend, murdered by the fucking state. While he would have eventually died anyway, the fact that he was forced to be removed from the life support that kept him alive is nothing more than murder, period. What if they had made that decision for Stephen Hawking decades ago? Who has the right to make that decision for anyone? I've often quoted the apparently apocryphal quote attributed to George Washington that said, "Government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force." I would change this to a simple phrase. Government is murder. That pretty much sums it up. Government must end. It is the most prolific and efficient murderer the world has ever known or will ever know. Let's smash the state and stop shit like this from happening in the future.
Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
This is Chris Spangle, and I am the host of We Are Libertarians, which you can find in iTunes, Google Play, or at wearelibertarians.com. We are a podcast that brings you all of the irreverence that modern politics deserves by examining current events from a libertarian perspective. So please, check us out at wearelibertarians.com.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In more government is murder news, at least 33 people were killed and 41 wounded after coalition airstrikes, led by Saudi Arabia, hit a wedding party in northwest Yemen. 2 missiles hit the celebration in the town of Hajjah several minutes apart, eyewitnesses and officials told CNN. At least 17 women and children were killed in the strikes, according to official sources. Yemen's Houthi officials say the strikes first hit the men's gathering of the wedding before hitting the women's section nearby. A spokesperson for the Houthi-held health ministry, Abdul Hakim Akuliani, said, "Due to many casualties from the coalition-led wedding attacks, field hospitals were made near the site of the attacks, giving injured civilians medical treatment in order to save lives. Tens have been killed, and the final toll for victims is still not clear. The United Nations have proven that it has no influence to force coalition forces to end massacres against civilians." The Saudi-led coalition, which has been fighting Yemen's Houthi rebels, said it was investigating the strikes on the wedding party. Coalition spokesman Colonel Toki al-Maliki said, "We take this report very seriously. It will be fully investigated, as all reports of this nature are. While this is ongoing, it would be inappropriate to comment further." The strikes wounded 32 other children, according to the head of the Al-Jamori Hospital in Hajjah. A U.S. senator condemned American involvement in Saudi-led airstrikes on Yemen. In response to a report on the wedding party deaths, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut said on Twitter, quote, "We sell them the planes and the bombs. We provide intel and help them select the targets. We refuel their planes mid-attack." So your tax dollars went to killing 33 and injuring 41 innocent people celebrating a wedding in Yemen. Feels pretty shitty, right? I know it feels pretty shitty to me, and of course it does. It should. But you were robbed at gunpoint, and that money was used to kill other people. While there's no responsibility for this, it should fall on any taxpayers, of course, unless they're voluntary taxpayers. I would still recommend paying as little taxes as possible. Look, find any loophole that you can. Get a good CPA to help you find those loopholes. Let's work hard, and let's starve the dragon, so the dragon can stop spouting fire at innocent people. In writing my coattails news, after my report on Bill Weld last week, Reason Magazine chimes in with their own article titled, "Bill Weld Lays Groundwork for 2020 Libertarian Presidential Run." In the article, Matt Welch says, "The 2016 VP candidate is issuing endorsements, raising money, talking about what the party needs to win the White House, and tacking in a more libertarian direction. But will he take the plunge?" After announcing last November that, quote, "I'm going to stay LP," and declaring the party perfectly positioned to fill what's a growing need in the country, Weld is now openly laying the groundwork for a 2020 presidential campaign. The only question is whether he'll be the one running. "I really have been doing a lot of reading and thinking about what it means to be the Libertarian Party and what possible achievements and upsides the Libertarian Party could accomplish," Weld told Welch in an interview at the California State LP Convention on Sunday. "So is he running?" "I take this stuff seriously," he told me, "but I'm sincere when I say that I'm not talking about who is going to do the Libertarian race in 2020. I'm just here to say that I think that's a race that has some real potential to go the distance, and the sooner we all wrap our minds around that, the better." Over the past few months, Weld has been schlepping his favorite brown coat from Houston to New York to Long Beach for state conventions, delivering his rap about how the party can best grow from here. The number one thing we need to do by November 2020 is to elect a libertarian president of the United States. And sketching out tantalizing visions of $50 million or $100 million in the bank at the beginning of the campaign. I'm looking also at the national level for people who could be helpful to the Libertarian Party, and there are two types, he told me. One is people who are office holders or have been office holders in the R and the D parties but who really are libertarians underneath it all. Another is billionaires who could fund the operation because we can't afford to be caught short as Gary Johnson and I were last time. Weld says he's also changed on foreign policy, telling me last November, if I had to talk about an issue where the campaign changed my thinking, it probably would be interventionism. And after having been a prosecutor and still looking visibly uncomfortable when talking too much about drugs in 2016, Weld is now happy to brag about being on the same marijuana advocacy board as John Boehner. I can almost feel myself sinking more deeply into the Libertarian Party, he said. God help us all. I feel myself broadening and, as I say, even deepening politically. Okay, so there is so much to unpack here, but you guys know how I feel about this non-libertarian moron. I've talked about it plenty on this show in the last couple of years. I find it interesting that this supposedly OG libertarian, as Gary Johnson called him, is only now sinking more deeply into the philosophy. If he was a libertarian going back to college, as he told Adam Kokesh a couple of weeks ago, there would be no way that he is just now changing on interventionism. It's all a game. This is a crock of shit, and we all know it. Bill Weld is toxic to the Libertarian Party. But more importantly, Bill Weld is toxic to libertarianism. Now, I recommend that you read this entire article on Reason.com and check out the video of the interview that Matt Welch did with Bill Weld. The link is in the show notes at thelavaflow.com/90. One cryptocurrency project that I'm most excited about right now is ZenCash, with privacy, anonymity, and security done right. You can read all about ZenCash at thelavaflow.com/Zen. Now look, I've read a ton of white papers on crypto, and this is the first one I've read that mentioned voluntary and voluntarist not once but 7 times. These are our people, and they are on the right track to mix great technology, excellent marketing, and awesome uses for their product. These guys get it, and they understand what crypto is all about. Now, this is a project, guys, that I believe in 100%. So much so that I have staked some of my own Zen to run a secure node on their network. So don't miss out on checking out this awesome project at thelavaflow.com/Zen. In Busybody news, a woman called the police to complain about a man's pro-gun t-shirt. A Texas father's afternoon visit to a local park prompted a police response after a woman alleged that the man's pro-gun Warrior 12 shirt was making other parents uncomfortable, police said. Troy Johnson and his 2 daughters, ages 4 and 6, stopped at Castle Park on March 30th so the children could enjoy the park's swings and mazes, he said. Johnson said he was openly carrying his handgun in a holster on his hip and was also sporting a Warrior 12 shirt emblazoned with the words, "I'll control my guns, you control your kids," across the back. The shirt also featured an image of an AR-15. Johnston said, "I figured I might get some comments or looks, but I was legally exercising my First and Second Amendment rights." According to Benbrook Police Department, Corporal Jay Reese, a woman contacted the department and reported a suspicious person with a gun holstered to his chest that was wearing a shirt that read, "You control your kids, I'll control my guns." She claimed that Johnson was making other parents on the playground very uncomfortable with his t-shirt, the corporal wrote in his report of the incident. As if people have a right to be free from being uncomfortable? What the fuck? The subject did not act threatening to anyone, nor did he threaten anyone, the report said. The woman told police she was not worried about the gun, which officers noted was located on Johnson's hip, not holstered to his chest. Johnson said that, as he spoke with police, the woman looked on from 25 or 30 feet away. He said she began cautioning everyone who walked near her to avoid the park because there's a man with a gun. So much for her not being worried about the fucking gun. Having done nothing wrong, Johnston was allowed to leave the area, police said. Look, it's busybodies like this woman that get people fucking killed by cops. She wanted to use the force of government, literally men with fucking guns, to come and control a person's behavior that was harming literally no one because she didn't like his behavior and she was uncomfortable. What the actual fuck? In good riddance to bad apples news, in England, police officers are quitting their jobs at one of the highest rates since records began. Analysis by the House of Commons Library shows 2,156 officers quit last year. In the 7 years since 2010, more than 11,670 have chosen to go. The flood of departures is blamed on real terms pay cuts, combined with increased workloads. Yeah, that's what happens in a nanny state. Somebody has to go out and police every little fucking thing that a person wants to do. Of course their workloads have increased. The Police Federation says officers have racked up a backlog of up to 250,000 rest days, as canceled days off and compulsory overtime are used to plug the shortfall in numbers. The union also warned of plunging morale and damage to officers' mental health, with 62% of its members saying their workload is too high. And 60% said their own personal morale was low, cited as a key factor in the 12.3% who wanted to leave in the next 2 years. This is what policing has become. A fucking slog of menial tasks and enforcement of idiotic regulations which pits them against us. And it will remain that way as long as there are government police to enforce the edicts of the rulers. Maybe eventually enough cops will quit worldwide that there will not be enough people left to enforce the rulers' edicts anymore. That sounds awfully like anarchy to me.
Are you looking for a way to protect your online presence quickly, easily, and inexpensively while still surfing the net with high speed? Well, NordVPN is the best way that I've ever found to do just that. With over 2,500 servers worldwide, they cover every continent except Antarctica. But, as they say, that's only because penguins just don't get the internet. They also offer double data encryption, which encrypts data not once, but twice. And they never log what you do and where you go on the internet. Also, NordVPN is fast, the fastest VPN service that I've ever used. They have apps for Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, so you can protect all of your traffic from all of your devices with NordVPN. Starting as low as $3.29 per month, they're also inexpensive, and they take Bitcoin too. With NordVPN, you can securely access any website from anywhere around the world, safely share files via P2P networks, and enjoy the fastest VPN experience without compromising your online security and privacy. Get signed up for the VPN service that I personally use every time I hit the internet at thelavaflow.com/VPN. Again, that's thelavaflow.com/VPN. In the Rulers Getting Richer news, a former New York City cop spilled his guts, telling Manhattan jurors about years' worth of bribes he and his fellow officers received for doling out gun permits. Everything from cash, prostitutes, and expensive watches to baseball memorabilia and exotic vacations. David Villanueva, an ex-supervisor of the NYPD's License Division, said he and other cops, including officers Richard Ochitel and Robert Espinel and Lieutenant Paul Dean, were on the take for years from so-called gun expediters. In exchange, the officers doled out pistol permits like candy, according to Villanueva. One expediter, he said, may have had ties to organized crime. Another got help with 100 gun permits over the year. Villanueva gave the testimony at the Manhattan federal court trial of John Chambers, a self-described gun lawyer to the stars accused of plying Villanueva with lavish gifts, including an $8,500 diamond-studded watch and tickets to Broadway shows in exchange for gun permits. Villanueva, who pleaded guilty and is cooperating with the feds, walked the jury through each expediter. Frank Suhu, who pleaded guilty in 2016, plied Villanueva and Ochitel with trips to the Bahamas, Mexico, and Hawaii, the ex-police sergeant said. Suhu also threw lavish parties at his Queens gun store for the officers and occasionally hired hookers to attend, Villanueva said. In exchange, Suhu got help getting permits, including advice on how to help a client who was federally barred from legally owning a gun, Villanueva said. Prosecutors also passed around the $8,500 watch they say Chambers gave Villanueva in exchange for his helping a client whose licenses were at risk because he failed to report multiple domestic violence incidents. Villanueva said he was able to help the man, accused of beating his wife, keep 2 of his 4 gun licenses, including one for his residence. Okay, so now they're using our rights to make themselves rich at our expense. Want to use your right to self-defense without running the risk of going to jail? You have to pay these jackasses thousands for that privilege. This is complete nonsense. But you know that this wave of justice won't stop this from happening again in the future. In some show news, it's still contest time, and I'm giving away some codes for free copies of the Audible audiobook Neither Bullets Nor Ballots, Essays on Voluntarism by Carl Wapner, Wendy McElroy, and George H. Smith. You can purchase a copy of the audiobook at thelavaflow.com/NBNB audio. But I'm giving away a bunch of these audiobooks for free, and there are a few different ways you can get your copy today. First, if you're a current supporter of the show, I will send you a free code to get this book if you upgrade your support of the show by at least $1 per episode by June 1st. This is not a drawing or anything. If you upgrade your support, you get the book. Free. That simple. Secondly, if you're not a supporter of the show, but you've been considering it, if you become a supporter of at least $1 per episode prior to June 1st, then you also get a free copy of this audiobook. Again, no drawing. Simple. You become a supporter, you get a free book. So to either upgrade your support or begin your new support, go to thelavaflow.com/support now, and you'll get your free book. Thirdly, if you want to enter a drawing to win one of 5 codes for this free book, this is an easy one as well and won't cost you a penny. All you have to do is leave the show a review on Apple Podcasts at thelavaflow.com/Apple. Then send me an email to feedback@thelavaflow.com with a screenshot of you leaving the review. Again, this will have to be done prior to June 1st to be entered in the drawing. The drawing will be done on June 1st, and the winners will be announced on the show after that date. So go to either thelavaflow.com/support or thelavaflow.com/Apple and get your chance to win your free audiobook of Neither Bullets Nor Ballots, Essays on Voluntarism today. Do it now, or you run the risk of forgetting to do it and missing out on your chance to get this awesome book with amazing narration by yours truly. Good luck in this contest. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
It's time to shake up your podcast feed, folks, by subscribing to Lions of Liberty, the only libertarian variety show out there. Spend Mondays with me, Mark Claire, as I feature in-depth interviews with great names in the libertarian community and fun roundtable discussions.
Electric Liberty Land with me, Brian McWilliams, every Wednesday, your weekly dose of comedy, culture, and liberty.
And Felony Fridays with me, John Odermatt, where I expose injustice in the broken criminal justice system.
Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and at lionsofliberty.com.
This is what happens when you call the cops. Say what? This is what happens when you call the cops. Come on. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. This is what happens.
You know, I try to save this segment of my show for the worst of the worst cases of police actions, and this episode is no different. In May of last year, 2 West Milwaukee police officers broke down the door to Adam Trammell's home, confronted him as he stood naked in his shower, and tasered him 18 times until he died. This month, Milwaukee County District Attorney John Chisholm has decided that the 2 cops responsible for this horrific incident will not be charged. On that fateful day, officers Michael Rolander and Anthony Munoz reported to a medical emergency under complex circumstances that required them to attempt restraint, Chisholm wrote to West Milwaukee Police Chief Dennis Nassy. However, according to investigative reports, Trammell, 22, who suffered from schizophrenia, did not exhibit any signs of needing medical attention as police arrived and began to forcefully remove him from the shower. What's more, if authorities claim he was in need of medical attention, why would they respond by attacking him in the shower with tasers and brute force? Robin Shello, one of the attorneys representing the Trammell family, said, "These police officers tortured Adam Trammell to death. This was not help. They were not protecting or serving anyone. Naked, cold, confused, alone in his own bathroom and crying for Jesus to take him, he needlessly suffered." As the highly disturbing body camera video shows, Trammell was naked in the shower, entirely calm, mind you, when police broke down his door. As the innocent mentally ill man stood in the shower, the curtain is then ripped back and an officer says twice, "Brandon, I'm going to need you to come out," referring to Trammell by the incorrect name. Remember, his name is Adam. As Brandon was not his name, the confused Trammell did not respond, which made the officers escalate force very quickly. "You're going to get tased," the officer barked before deploying the taser on a naked man in his own shower. Trammell then falls to the floor in pain and begins to panic as the two armed intruders proceed to torture him to death. It's important to point out that Trammell never posed a threat to officers, or to anyone for that matter. He was entirely calm, naked, and did absolutely nothing wrong except not respond to the name Brandon. He had harmed no one, had committed no crime, and he was attacked and killed by people who were claiming to be there to help him. Over and over again, as Trammell screams out in agony, the officers deploy their tasers, shocking this innocent man up to 18 times. The repeated tasering caused Trammell to go into distress, and this young man spent his last moments of consciousness in agonizing pain while vomiting profusely. According to the medical examiner's report, Trammell suffered a black eye, a broken rib, and more than 24 cuts and bruises. In spite of the overwhelming evidence showing the attack on Trammell, Chisholm concluded there was, quote, "no basis to conclusively link the deaths of Trammell to the officers' actions." Chisholm said, "I do not believe there is a sufficient factual or legal basis to believe that either officer's actions were a direct or indirect factor in his death. This was ruled as a justified murder by a fucking government bureaucrat." And I bet you can guess why the cops were there. Yep, a fucking busybody neighbor called the police to report that this guy was naked, speaking incoherently, and needed help. So the cops bring help in the form of a fucking torture device and use it 18 times after breaking into the man's home and trying to rip him from his own shower. Mark Thompson, the attorney for Trammell's family, said, "He was naked in the bathtub. He had no weapon. There's no reason in any situation that a young African-American male suffering from mental illness should be shot with a taser 15 to 18 times and then die. They should have treated him like he had a mental illness and taken him to the hospital." He called the police action unconscionable. Of course it's unconscionable. It's disgusting. To protect and serve my fucking ass. What should be the punishment for people like this, who torture innocent people to death? Only by government fiat can people who knowingly do this in the light of day on camera get away scot-free. This is yet another example of government murder. These examples are far too common and easy to find these days. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my favorite NYC gal, Jessica, for her help with the show. For the show notes of this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/90. I have one new supporter of the show this week. Matt B. supported the show at the $2.50 per episode level using Patreon, and he gets a free copy of Neither Bullets Nor Ballots. Thanks so much, Matt. That's awesome. Thanks to Matt and all the rest of my awesome supporters, I'm now at $262 per episode, or 52.4% of the way towards my next goal of $500. Thanks for all of your support, guys. Remember, when I hit this next goal, I'll be upping the content I bring you from half an hour per week to a full hour. I know you want more content from me, and I want to give it to you. So add your pledge today to help me bring you twice the lava flow that you're getting today. So exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon or Bitcoin through Coinbase. I also have 2 new Apple Podcast reviews this week. Matt B11B, who also became a supporter of the show this week, said, "Awesome show. I don't know how you can listen to this show and come out supporting government." And Thiocyanite said, "A great voluntarist, a must listen.
Paxton delivers an aggressive and informative voluntarist program. He takes liberty very seriously and calls out the flaws in our current system in his unique fashion. One of a kind. Guys, thank you both so much for those awesome reviews. And if you've got a minute and you want to hear your review on this show, please go to thelavaflow.com/Apple and leave me a rating and a review. All the cool kids are doing it. Thank you to everyone who's left me a rating and a review so far. You guys rock. To all of you who haven't, can you guys help me out and go leave a review for me? Go to thelavaflow.com/Apple to do that now. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.